Ladies and gentlemen, good morning after a very good evening, after a very good day. We are returning to this space after enjoying substantive and fun and emotional discussions at the Public Media Alliance Global Conference, Speak Out. And today we have our consecutive conference, the Caribbean Broadcasting Union's 49th Annual General Assembly under the theme Building Resilience to Climate Change, Business, Technology, and Content Options for Caribbean Media. This initial session will offer perspectives on information and communication matters in Jamaica and the region, as well as a further keynote on the matters of climate change and media. I now hand you over to our extremely competent, very hardworking, looking forward to a vacation after this week, President of the Caribbean Broadcasting Union, Mr. Gary Allen.
Morning. You get the impression that the SG has done something that she is trying to make up for very early, right? I'm not sure what that is at all. Honorable Minister, our special guest as well from the CARICOM Secretariat, whom we'll introduce more substantively later on. Friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'd like to welcome you to day one of the CBU's 49th Annual General Assembly here in Kingston and to day two of the CBU Public Media Alliance marathon of conferences for this year. I'm sure you feel the run is at a frenetic pace, but I'm sure you're enjoying the run because we have done so much that has been so interesting and impressive over the last day and a half. Well, for those of us who started with the board meetings on Sunday. I'd like to welcome those whom have joined us since we did the formal welcome session yesterday. I am not going to go into the pointing out of everybody, but I thought that it would be remiss of me if I did not recognize that the Director General of the African Union of Broadcasters, Mr. Gregoire Njaka, has joined us. He came in yesterday, so let's welcome him. And I think, Gregoire, you're based in Senegal, I think it is? Right, so we are going to have to organize something to visit him in Senegal, right? Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to put on the record this morning our apology to the delegation from Guyana and also to those who may be following the proceedings with an interest in Guyana and Guyana affairs. Totally inadvertently yesterday, the Guyana flag was not one of those that was included in the parade of flags at the start of the ceremony. It was not intentional. We apologize for that. So Enrico and the rest of the team. Although I would have mistaken you for being fully Jamaican and all of that, I do recognize that Guyana, with its substantive contribution, not just to being home of the CBU at some point in our life, but the ongoing support, that was a misstep that we apologize for, and we have made good this morning. And we will fly the flag for you right through the rest of the conference. So our apologies. So the Secretary General has made it clear what our theme is and what our focus is this morning, and therefore I am not going to delay you any further by repeating what she has said. I also have a substantive bio of our Minister of Education, Youth and Information, and when you're a substantive man, you have a substantive bio. But I'm not going to go through all of it, Minister. Yes, I think sometimes we read the bios, and when you're sitting and listening, it almost sounds like a eulogy. And although you are much more prepared than I am for going elsewhere, yes, I am not sure that you don't want to do that. Senator Ruel Reed was born in the southwestern Jamaican parish of St. Elizabeth. He had his earlier education in that parish, and I think he would like me to say that it culminated in that parish with his attendance to one of Jamaica's finest boys' schools, if not the finest boys' school in Jamaica, at Monroe College. Thereafter, he went to the University of the West Indies. At Mona, he also attended the Liberal Arts College of Jamaica, Bethlehem Moravian College, also Nova Southeastern University. He holds a diploma in education, a Bachelor of Science in business studies, a Master of Science in human resource management. So he is qualified to be in education in youth, and he has responsibility for the all-important information sector. Some people say he's the face of the government because he is the minister who hosts the post-cabinet press briefings. And we can say that now, Minister, right? Yes, he hosts those press briefings. That's like a Jamaican joke that's going on there between us. Senator Reed has a distinguished career in the teaching profession, and he rose to the position of President-elect and then President of the Jamaica Teachers Association. He served as President, the 38th President, between 2005 and 2006. His career also took him to another outstanding Jamaican high school, college one may say, a college that has schooled some outstanding Jamaicans, including, is it one or two prime ministers? Two prime ministers. So he is now a senator. I hear there has been a seat that he has been assigned. And that's where I'm going. And he's already been a minister. He has been principal of schools which has schooled prime ministers. So one might think that he is heading down the road of aspiring to be prime minister. No, Senator Reed has been awarded the Commander of the Order of Distinction, a national award, which is one of our prestigious awards given for service, and he has received that for service to the field of education. He's a Justice of the Peace in the parish of St. Andrew, which is where we are located today. He is also host of, and this is the most important thing, you see, he is host of the program Look at Life. It's a religious program on Sunday mornings at 7:05 on RJR 94 FM. He has served on a number of boards, including the Board of Family Life Ministries, the Caribbean Examinations Council, Heart NTA, and several others. In 2006, he was appointed principal of Jamaica College, and the school has seen a remarkable level of growth under his leadership. He was appointed to the Senate and assigned the newly created Ministry of Education, Youth, and Information in March 2016. He's married to Sharon, whom I know. He has 2 children that I know. His hobbies include cricket, football, tennis, current affairs, reading, and watching movies on TVJ. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the minister.
Thank you very much, Gary. And you've forgotten to tell them that today is actually my anniversary, but I won't hold that against you. Yeah, I'm one day, but no, you won't forget, I'm one day behind you. All right, good. Following your footsteps. Dr. Ulrich Strutz, Deputy Executive Director and Science Advisor, Caribbean Community of Climate Change Center. Dr. Kim Maliu, Caribbean Commission for Communication Resilience Miss Marta Catalano, Public Media Alliance, Miss Erica Walker, UNESCO Caribbean, Mr. Cleveland Thomas, Head of the Caribbean Office, International Communications Union, to our distinguished President, Mr. Gary Allen, CEO, RJR Gleaner Communications Group, to all you delegates and members of this great association, the Caribbean Broadcasting Union, and your General Assembly. It's my pleasure and privilege to be here to speak with you, to engage you this morning. On behalf of the government and people of Jamaica, to welcome all our visitors and indeed all participants of this 49th Annual General Assembly of the Caribbean Broadcasting Union. And this is home, and I know a lot of you after today may have a difficulty in wanting to return to from the other islands from which you are from. But now that we are making some adjustment to the treaty on the CARICOM, it'll be much easier for you to move and, of course, have your residence in Jamaica. Okay, so we do welcome all of our Caribbean family members to Jamaica. May your deliberations be as rich, however, and fruitful as your time here together is enjoyable. You know, in Jamaica, we have a lot of fun, so please don't let Gary overwork you. Make sure you have time to explore the city. And it takes less than an hour to get to the North Coast on our new highway. So, Gary, I'm sure you'll get them. And it's about 2 hours to get to Montego Bay. So you can almost get a crowd around the island like we get around the entire Barbados in what, about 2 hours? There you go. Notwithstanding this idyllic setting, however, we assemble against the sobering reality that hurricanes Irma and Maria made landfall in Anguilla, the Bahamas, Barbuda, Dominica, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, St. Barts, St. Martin, the Turks and Caicos, the British Virgin Islands, and the United States Virgin Islands just last year, with devastating effects. On June 1st, 2018, this year, the Atlantic hurricane season began and will end, hopefully, on November the 30th, 2018, just 3 months. In fact, last year we were wondering in Jamaica when the rain was going to cease, because beyond November 30th, we still had a lot of rain into Christmas and in the early part of the year. And then, of course, we had a period of absence of rainfall. Well, Gary says drought. Predictions for this cycle thus far suggest a less intense season for the region. We have nonetheless had 4 named systems to date and must continue to prepare to weather any storm which may come our way. And, you know, around September the 12th is usually the peak of the hurricane season. So we always look at a spike around the early part of September. And when we don't see any major storm occurring, so whoo, thank God, because it tends to have less activity after September. But who knows? We don't control the weather. So prediction for this cycle thus far suggests, as I said, a less intense season. We also take account of the fact that small island developing states are also particularly vulnerable to floods. On one hand, you may even have droughts, then followed by floods. We are susceptible to earthquakes, and Jamaica itself, we haven't had a major earthquake for a while, but we have had a history of that. We have had, unfortunately, our neighboring island of Haiti. We, of course, recall that. We have volcanic activity in a number of our islands across our region. And quite a few of our islands are quite flat, have no real rainfall. I know, and my friends in Antigua, you know, have had to be very resilient in terms of providing water through other means. The latter afflicts Jamaica even as we're just coming out of a drought. Together we have known the painful losses counted in invaluable lives and in millions lost to our economies. occasioned by these disasters. Earlier this year, we encountered actual tsunami warning. And I believe this certainly has been the first in my lifetime. It is therefore appropriate that the Caribbean Broadcasting Union, in association with the Public Media Alliance, has turned the spotlight on the acute threat that climate change represents to our lives and livelihood, so that we may build our resilience to it. This year's theme is therefore a necessary signal that our success is not only surviving, but ensuring that we are thriving in the face of the dangers that climate change portends. Success will lie in proactive leadership and the collaboration of our governments, experts, media, regional and global partners, the private sector, academia, and engagement of the general citizenry. We therefore commend the CBU and the Public Media Alliance to again bringing together our key stakeholders or partners to examine these critical issues affecting media, identify solutions, and to be part of them, not just complaining, but how can we work together so that together we can deal with it. Yes, it is clearly time for action. In this regard, I take the opportunity to recognize the importance of the work of the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, or focal point in the Caribbean, for providing policy advice to CARICOM, coordinating the region's response to climate change, harvesting and maintaining data not only on change issues, but on the region's management and adaptation to the negative effects we are experiencing. We take great pride in its designation by the United Nations Institute for Training and Research as a center of excellence, and we are very pleased that we will benefit from the contribution of Dr. Truss, its Deputy Executive Director and Science Advisor in short order. We acknowledge with appreciation Dr. Malaliu, who will be with us today as the representative of the hardworking Commission for Communications and Resilience, the CCR. Its formation, you will recall, was CARICOM's specific response to the 2017 devastation in the region, occasioned by the aforementioned hurricanes. The intent, of course, is to increase resilience of the region's communication infrastructure in the face of extreme natural events. I expect the information sharing to be rich in order to secure a very informed appreciation of the vulnerabilities which exist relative to our communications infrastructure. We recall the reported failures which affected countries last year, spanning connectivity outages, communications infrastructure failures, and delays in restoring services. I'm confident among us we have the will and technical capacity across the region to chart a new way forward. We'll work in partnership to better safeguard our people and preserve our industries and economies. Allow me, therefore, to commend the distinguished and inestimable work of the CCR's chair, the Commission for Communications Resilience, and Secretary General of the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, Bernadette Lewis, who together, put your hands together for Bernadette. And of course, the chair, CCR chairman, deputy chairman, who is here, put your hands together. And together with their cable teams, continue to make possible interface between policymakers, senior officials, regulators, industry, subject matter experts, and our global partners. We're happy to have with us the International Telecommunication Union, Mr. Cleveland Thomas, who heads their Caribbean office and brings with him a wealth of experience in this area, as also our longtime partners from UNESCO. But since I'm asking for applause, put your hands together for Cleveland Thomas. And of course, to Erica Walker, especially commend the CBU's Secretary General, Sonia Gill. So hands for Erica Walker and Sonia Gill. I want to talk on three quick matters. First one, the role of the media in disaster risk reduction, relief, and recovery, and other threats. So, delegates, journalists, media managers, and broadcasters, both in the commercial and public service spheres, know how every society relies on their timely and credible service in times of disaster and in the face of other threats. And I have lived in Jamaica long enough. I remember when we had several outages. And God bless the fact that media persons, journalists kept their radio station on all night. They didn't go home. And that was the only means of communication. People could call in, and that it's actually saves so many lives because people are able to say, you know, which area being flooded, or you could have response agencies move to targeted areas. So, I mean, this is really very serious work that the broadcasting sector do to keep our countries alive and people actually physically alive. In these times, there is also a threat to the high media standards which form the bedrock of democracies, which resilience must also be built. Threats of the spread of fake news from multiple and often unknown sources and diverse platforms. Threats to the viability of traditional media with competition from social media. Threats of cybercrime and terrorism. Threats of hate speech. Threats against the sustainability of traditional media in vulnerable and sometimes shrinking economies. Threats to the preservation of indigenous content given globalization, and the list is seemingly endless, yet dwarfed by your proven tenacity, agility, skill, commitment, and capacity. Clap yourselves, man. You have really been doing very well. So then, what is the role of the media in natural disaster reduction, recovery, relief, etc., and media relationship, therefore, with the state? The media, in all its forms and platforms, continues to be a critical plank of the disaster risk management process, given its unmatched reach across communities, sectors, and countries. Media must inform, educate, and empower people by disseminating relevant, timely, and even expert information. We encourage wide ventilation of extant vulnerabilities, strategies for improving disaster preparedness and actions, society's facilitation of wide participation in finding solutions, generally and in particular participation of those who are most at risk. So, you know, when the government complain about people who build on gully banks and, you know, on the coastal areas, and we ask them to move, you know, you need to help us in the education drive, because that will save so many lives. The media is our democracy's asset in giving high visibility to issues driving climate change, to inform commercial practices, encourage environmentally conscious behaviors at the individual level, and influence policies. And of course, the big debate now about plastics, and I'm sure that is going to be an interesting debate across the region, and particularly being island states, issues of global warming and climate change and impact in terms of environmental issues become very relevant to our sustainability. We are encouraged to strengthen partnerships between the state, the media and telecommunications operators, as the ability to broadcast or otherwise communicate text inclusive, early warning information, and scientific forecast cannot be overstated. I take the opportunity to urge that there be protocols established by codes or memoranda of understanding and or law to ensure that the roles and responsibilities of each actor is known and supporting systems are in place to seamlessly execute agreed functions with a view to saving human lives, crops, livestock, property, and cultural assets. So there's no war between government and the media. We are partners. We are the fourth estate. So just that we have to regulate what you do, but we are still partners. Right, Gary? Thank you very much. So we have seen that the media continues to save lives after the occurrence of any disaster, to provide coverage with respect to the extent and areas of loss and need, including the need for emergency assistance, identification of persons in need of rescue, information about any hazards relative to food, water, clothing, and other supplies, and be a credible source of factual information with respect to places for shelter and medical aid. And I have seen, we spoke about fake news, how one person just sent something which is false, and that could also divert resources. So we rely on the media for credible information, because if we don't have credible information itself could create chaos in our country and in our region. The media's role, therefore, serves the local, regional, and international communities' need for information and communication, connecting families, communities, and sources of aid. We are better for it if there is maintained strength and clarity of purpose in the partnership between the state and the media in this regard. The media, correctly, must hold governments and their partners to account for their stewardship in managing these crises and in the reconstruction and rehabilitation phases. Government must make themselves available to engage around these plans and processes to successfully serve those who are affected. It is in fact a public-private people partnership, and the media is the glue. Let me just turn briefly to Jamaica's media policy goals within CARICOM's context. I'm aware that there is some interest in knowing what we consider to be our own main policy goals here in Jamaica with respect to the electronic media. Overarchingly, these include the creation of a knowledge-based, digital literate society, wide access to content and media platforms, wide access to high-quality indigenous content, an enabling environment for investment, diversity and plurality of media, promotion and preservation of shared national, social, and cultural values, and creation of wealth through the creative industries. Our government, in formulating both its media and culture policies, take note that between 2003 and 2004, CARICOM actually reformulated its process of planning for culture. The strategic plan for the Caribbean Community 2015-2019 identified the role of culture as being central to building economic resilience, building social resilience, strengthening CARICOM, identity and spirit of the community, unifying force in regionalism. And I see there has been much more interest recently after the recent heads of government meeting. Success of the Caribbean single market and economy. Of course, there's a debate whether we're going with the economy or the market, but that's part of where you come in to have this engagement. The promotion of cultural diversity, social cohesion and inclusiveness, wealth creation, and of course, poverty reduction. The heads of government of CARICOM further agreed to embrace and encourage the range of services that draw on the region's indigenous talents, its artistic and cultural traditions, as well as its intellectual and sporting history of achievements. And you know, as I raise this, something that I'm trying to push, in fact, both, you know, I've got a recent, I met with Dr. Julius Garvey recently, how we really need to, on Friday is his birthday, to include more Garveyism in our curriculum in our schools, as well as civics. But even in our literature, literary works that we use in our schools, the narratives in our assessment. So, clear PEP that is coming up. I given instruction that I want to see culturally sensitive material in the testing items, so I don't hear too many foreign up. So you bring all of this together. In fact, the best practices across the world tell you don't set exams that are not culturally relevant, and CXC has done a pretty good job of that. But I'm saying within our own internal education system, we need to take cognizance of that. And the other part of it is that as a region where most of us are tourism dependent economies, and we should build up this indigenous and creative talent and culture and awareness and monetize it so that people should be coming to our countries because of the richness of our culture and be proud of our culture and our identity, rather than we're trying to redefine ourselves. And even tourists themselves have a problem with that because they don't want to see the same thing that they're coming from. They want to experience the real authentic Caribbean culture and identity. And I say this because even as a Minister of Education, Youth and Information, because even within the Caribbean, by the way, we're not even socialized. Our parents all want everybody to be doctors and lawyers. So the arts, creative expressions, including sports, are almost taboo in many instances. Yet, these are areas that can be highly valuable and lucrative. In fact, people who are outstanding artists and sportsmen and women earn far more money than Gary Allen and I put together. And I don't really earn a lot of money. But Gary, as a private sector man, earned plenty of money. So we need the media to help us in changing this narrative and indeed informing not only policymakers but even parents how our world and our region is transitioning, and that frankly talents and skills is what we need to develop and be able to monetize it, and even cultural expressions. All of these things are part of our economic reality that we need to develop. The development of national cultural policies, therefore, to guide development of the creative sector, is therefore something that we have to articulate. Agreement on an appropriate multi-sectoral package of incentives to stimulate the development of the cultural and creative industries. Enactment of cultural and creative industry development acts in all member states that will enshrine a multi-sectoral national system of incentives into law, clearly setting out eligibility criteria, sectors, and benefits. Ratification of international treaties and conventions on culture and intellectual property, and extension of the period of intellectual property protection for copyright and related rights. Agreement on a harmonized regional exemption regime for the cultural and creative industries in the context of the CSME. Establishment of sustainable financing mechanism has been a sore point at the national and regional levels to support cultural and creative industries development. Establishment of dedicated institutional support at the national and regional level to implement the regional strategy and provide targeted support to the sector. Strengthening educational programs in the... Okay, thank you very much for the applause. I'm sorry, at this point we'll break for some commercial and I'll be right back.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what the rules are at the Pegasus, but if it is in fact a fire alarm, we should not be staying here. So we should at least find out. And I think there are some important people. So, Minister, I believe that you should make sure. Dr. Trot?